Okay, lots of stuff to update. Duke's chilling. So I haven't done as good a job as I intended to with update videos, but catch up a little bit here. Obviously, most of the disassembly is complete. Top end of the motor's all torn down, and in fact, as of today, late December, that's all off in the capable hands of Scott at Hillside Cycle, and getting the heads worked, cylinders touched up, etc., etc., etc. I'll go in another video in more detail on exactly what we're doing to the engine, but for now, that's that. All the various parts, all carefully bagged and tagged. I mean, the Ziploc bag guys gotta love these projects. Okay, so let's talk about the swing arm. I've actually, as of this moment, the swing arm is done. You see, let's see if we can get to it there. See that red thing down in there? That's the new Glide Pro donuts. Had quite an adventure getting the spherical bearings from Custom Cycle Engineering installed. Well, it was basically I screwed it up the first couple of times, and the swing arm was way too tight, and so now it's still fairly firm, but you can see one finger I can get it up and down, and guys that I trust assure me that that's good, so we'll call that good. But anyway, so the bearings are in, the Glide Pro donuts are in. There's actually the pivot shaft. Jake at Glide Pro includes a new pivot shaft, so that's in. And by the way, huge props to Jake. When I was going through having the difficulties that I had with that, I reached out to him, and since his recommendation was the reason that I went with the Custom Cycle Engineering bearings in the first place, and he was very generous with his time and very helpful. So again, a huge shout out to Jake, good guy. The other part of the Glide Pro system that I have not installed yet, this is the front mount. What's interesting is I don't know if you can see, but I mean it feels considerably softer than a stock mount, which is some pretty hard rubber. So there's that. Here's something that I discovered upon disassembly. These there's a top and a bottom motor mount that sort of holds the motor in position. Actually, the whole drivetrain. But there you can see there's a heim joint on either end of these things. And what I discovered is they're just for all practical purposes frozen solid. So that is all going to have to get replaced. I've been having a thing for the last year, let's say, where occasionally the starter will hesitate. You hit the button and kind of click and kind of get nothing, and then you hit it again and it takes off. So since I was in this deep, I figured I may as well go ahead and pull the starter out, and this side is the solenoid side, that's the actual starter motor side, and I pull this cover off, and the solenoid's down in there. So I went ahead and got into that and was ready to replace the contacts inside, but honestly they looked fine. But they were a little grungy, so I cleaned it all up real good, put some lithium grease on the moving plunger side, and whatever, we'll get that hooked up, and hopefully that corrects the problem. If not, we'll
figure something else out. One thing you notice, the paint's kind of janked. One of the things I've decided, I'm not gonna do any cosmetic cleanup of this kind of stuff. I'm not gonna paint the cylinders or the heads or anything. I mean, it's an almost 30-year-old bike. Well, I kind of like a 30-year-old bike that looks like a 30-year-old bike. In terms of actual fabrication, the saddlebags are by far the biggest part of this. There's obviously the bags themselves, the lids, and all their fancy mechanics are in the box still. These are just cheapos that I got off of eBay. They seem okay-ish. I'm honestly gonna reserve judgment on whether or not it's even worth spending the money to get them painted, because getting them painted will cost a whole lot more than they cost. So we'll see. But they're just a way newer design, and they don't fit directly. So the left side is not too bad, and that's all the stock bracketing right there, and more or less the bag will just set right on there just fine. The only issue is getting it connected to the two upper mounts. The right side is tougher. That's the old battery box, or what's left of it. It used to extend out like to here. I trimmed that back, and the more I look at it, I think I'm going to get into it and trim it back a lot more. I mean, the only reason you need it at all is you have to preserve that screw, or the mounting point for that screw, I guess you'd say, so that you can get the side cover installed. Other than that, there's no reason for anything on the box. So what I'm going to do is probably draw a line along about here. Everything above it I'm going to cut off. Probably put a little radius along in here. Just clean it up. It's just me being stupid, because this won't show. It'll be completely hidden by everything once it's all said and done. But it'll make me feel better. So the plan is do a little more trim on that, and then starting at about here, from about here back, I'll hit it all with some paint, just to, because I'm grinding on some chrome there and exposing the bare steel, and I don't want it to rust and whatever. So get that polished up. Okay, here we go. Got some help now. Got my boys here. So, okay, so here's, that's John. Sonny's on the camera.
I'm cameraman. Oh, it's blurry. There it goes.
Got it? Okay, so here, stand back a little bit, Sonny. Let's get kind of back here. So this is one of the new bags, and the good news is they have like this groove in the bottom, and it fits just fine on the stock bracket. So in terms of overall position, the bottom bracket is fine. And you can see we've got plenty of clearance against what was once the battery box. But here's the challenge. The upper mounts, there's one there and there's one here, don't come out far enough. So what I've done is I've cut these little wooden blocks, and you can see that gets me about where I need to go. So those are about 0.7 inches thick. So what we're going to do, well, the other thing you notice here, if you come down looking through this way, the holes for the mounting screws are in the wrong position as well, especially the one in the back. It completely misses where the stock bracket is. Not even close. So the basic plan is I'm going to take this, and we're going to come up with, I'm going to basically drill a couple of holes, mount it to this, make sure those are well countersunk so that the screws don't protrude. Come back in here, mark the opening through the mounting hole, and then drill and tap the block. But of course, the wooden blocks are just for mock-up. Once I get it all mocked up and figured out, I'll make the final blocks out of aluminum, and that'll be that. So essentially we need 4 adapter blocks between the 2 sides, and the rest should go. Okay, now back off a little bit. I'm going to show them this. Now, once those are mounted, the next thing it's going to have to do is the new lids swing up like this, and I'm pretty much guaranteed they're going to hit this bracket. So we're either going to have to sort of bend this bracket to get it out of the way of the lids. If there's no good way to bend it, I think I can get away with just cutting it off completely. I'd rather not do that, but that's another possibility. And then the last thing here, John, you see that red thing over there?
Yeah.
Grab that for me. Okay. So once that's all done, here's the side cover. Let me go and step back a little bit there, Sonny. And I've kind of roughly marked, I think, where I'm going to need to trim. But what I'm going to do is, once this bag is in place, I'll just have to kind of whittle back on this, because this hole here obviously is what goes over the oil filler. So it's, you know, it needs to be trimmed quite a bit. Trim that to fit.
Here to there. It's quite a distance.
It's quite a distance. We got a ways to go.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, Luke.
that's how we're mounting the bags. Okay, so having eliminated the battery box on the side, we got to have a place to put the battery. Well, here, come on, here, we'll show them this. The place the battery's going,
right in here.
down in this space here. Lots of space. That's good. Problem is, not near enough to hold the original battery. So I got this guy,
which is very light and very small.
this super tiny anti-gravity battery. I mean,
Which
it's
is like
just,
2 pounds.
Yeah, there's just nothing to it. It's super light. And I fabricated this, which is the new battery box, and it's a nice fit. That'll go in there perfectly. Just a little bit to kind of give them a little perspective here. So that's the way it goes. Actually, it was my first attempt at welding aluminum, which wasn't exactly the most successful thing, but it's
pretty good.
It's 10 times stronger than it needs to be, that's for sure. So what happens then is, and it's a snug fit, and I don't want to wedge it in there now, but you can just barely squeak this thing down and under, and it'll end up sitting down under here. This side here actually ends up underneath this piece here.
Really?
Yeah, so that'll kind of wedge down underneath. These bolts will end up coming through these 2 holes. That'll hold the battery. Then I'll have to remake the battery cables, and that's that for the battery box. So that's pretty much it for the update. Making quite a bit of progress here. It's been slow going. We've had, you know, holidays and stuff, and it's just, life always gets in the way. There's always something going on, but God willing, with a little bit of luck, there's no reason this won't all get buttoned up in the next few weeks. So there you go. I will hopefully do a better job of keeping the updates coming. Thanks for watching.